It's urgent that we do this work now because especially magnetic tapes are degrading, and the machines that can play them and read them are also becoming more and more obsolete. They're hard to repair. So it's really important to get the sound off those recordings while you can, and then you begin a new life of preserving the digital object that comes from that tape. It's mind-blowing. When we first went to Toronto to look at the stuff, the first box I opened, it had Queen, you know, master recordings of Queen. I was like, okay.
There's always surprises. So when I was transferring the master tape of the Tom Cochrane live album, a track, Life is a Highway, at the end of the tape tagged on was an intro that they didn't use on the album.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back, no, 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 no. Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back, no.
So my name is Nathan Chandler. I am the audiovisual conservation specialist for this project, and my role is to get the audio content off of the tapes into a digital format that we can preserve for the future. Looking at some of these older tapes, there is an issue in the 80s to mid-90s where there was a problem with the chemical formulation on the tape, and what would actually happen is over time the glue or the binder holding the magnetic particles onto the backing would break down and the information would start shedding off of the tape. What we'll do is put a tape in the oven and it'll dry for about 24 hours at 55 degrees Celsius, and that's enough to draw all of the humidity out of the tape, so we'll be able to play it back without having problems. Some of the more interesting material I've come across tends to be the outtakes or the unreleased mixes, and seeing for some albums we'll have 40 tapes for one album and it'll have every version of the mix that tape went through. This iconic music, I look at it and go, wow, this could have sounded completely different than the gold record that came out that made, you know, millions of copies.
So this is the complete corporate archive of EMI Music Canada. It's everything that the record company would have kept. Business records, letters, photos, files on artists, all the master recordings. So this is from the artist and repertoire files for Corey Hart. So there's sort of a press release giving an overview of him at the early stage of his career. Here we have the layout for the artwork of a cassette of the Canadian band Grapes of Wrath. So here's a more final product.
My goal is to not just have a copy of it, but have the best copy of it that I possibly can, and have something that could go to an album re-release. And what these fans and the audience wants to hear, I want to be able to provide a really high quality version of this that they probably haven't heard before.
He said nothing, though most of them knew.
We have probably processed about 25% of the archive now. It'll be about 5,500 boxes of material, so about 2 million documents and photos, 40,000 audiovisual recordings, which are half audio and half music videos. You know, it's our social experience, all the dances we went to. Everyone I grew up with, we went to Much Music video dances. This is all of that. So there's a generation that grew up with records, there's a generation that grew up with cassettes, there's a generation that grew up with music videos. It's like deeply interwoven into our psyches, really, popular music.
Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name.